do some late night consulting business chat. How's it been going, John and Yannick?
Pretty good, man. I'm doing well. How you doing, Yannick?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Just long week, but long weekend, but pretty good.
Yeah. So what's been new with you guys in terms of like working on a consulting business?
Well, Yannick, tell everybody what you're working on right now.
I'm actually working on a I'm on this site called RFP Mart, and what I'm doing there is looking at RFP requests for proposals. This is where people post their requests for proposals, I guess, and um, I'm downloading these requests for proposals and going through them and trying to see if and there's a ton of them that kind of fit what we're kind of looking for. Uh, so really just going through those and maybe selecting a couple or three or four and um, uh, constructing some proposals for those. Using a little bit of Chat GPT to assist with that. And yeah, it's been fun so far. So yeah, hopefully in a couple of days I can have something going, a few proposals out. I actually found a really cool one, but it's due in 2 days, so I'm kind of just using that one as like a test. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. What about you guys?
Yeah. So recently, me and John we started attending some networking events, some business networking events. It was actually pretty interesting. I kind of feel like you make a lot more intimate connections, like meeting in person.
Yeah, stepping. I know that can be hard for some people. Stepping outside of your comfort zone and going to a networking meeting just to meet all new people. But um, when you take that step, you never know who you're going to end up connecting with. So it's been pretty cool. I've found a new podcast I'm listening to from somebody here local, and
Nice.
I've already gotten some valuable stuff from that. And it's kind of cool because there's a whole like sub community around networking groups. So you go to one networking group and you meet a few people, and then you start getting invited to other ones. And so I've been to a couple of different ones, and I'm going to another one tomorrow. And I've already gotten a couple of prospects for websites through those as well. So now I'm kind of trying to feel that out and figure out what's the networking group that I should make myself a part of regularly, because there's referral benefits with them. So once you're, a regular part of a networking group, then you become the go-to person for that service. So I'm, feeling out, trying to find which one's the right one to be a more permanent part of.
Yeah, cool. So so the network that you guys went to, what was that? Where was it?
Well, yeah, one of them was in McKinney. That's the one me and John both attended, and then I also went to one in the Colony, kind of like in that Grandscape Plaza area. But
Mhm.
yeah, man, it's really interesting. They have like all kinds of people from all kinds of businesses, from like landscaping, cleaning, uh, janitorial, web development. Like you never know who you really meet up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
don't
I
think
met
I
a
got to
lady
tell
today.
you, Kevin, but
No, go ahead.
I went to that one as well the other day.
Oh, the one in Grandscape. What did you think about that one?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it was just interesting seeing the different culture. Like these groups have, you know, they're people who are they're meeting up every single week. So there's this culture that develops, and the first group we went to was very large. This one was pretty still pretty large, but I mean, it was a cool atmosphere. Everybody was very friendly, made some good connections, and people were eager to find the right people to connect with. And one thing I liked about this one in particular was that they really celebrate people connecting when you're in the same industry. And so instead of kind of being like, oh, we already have somebody for that, you should, you know, leave, is more like, hey, y'all might be good synergy partners, and maybe you find something that's, you know, like, even though I do all kinds of stuff in the web space, instead of me being focused on web design, I can be focused on web application development, and I can be a synergy partner with somebody else who does web design. And yeah, it was pretty cool because the people that I met there who do web design, I was actually like, you know, I might be able to subcontract them for some stuff. So it's cool.
Yeah, I find that's like really important because you know, the more you do this kind of stuff, the more you find out that you can't do everything or you just don't want to, and not having the right team around you will really like limit your effectiveness. So finding the complementary pieces, I find that like that's just crucial to growing as a business.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm at right now is I've got my whiteboard next to me, and I'm really drawing out, you know, where am I able to scale up and expand, um, because I've got a little bit more work than I can handle right now. So who've I got on my team? And I brought somebody onto the team today who actually has an associate's in computer science, but she hasn't gotten to really exercise that yet. She's been kind of dabbling in Java and Python, but I brought her on today to start helping with some PHP stuff, and it's giving her some real world experience, and then it's expanding my capacity so I can take on more.
Interesting. Nice. So far, what do you think is? I guess your whole team. What do you when your whole team is um, assembled? What I guess tech stack expertise would it comprise of? Like the whole team. What are you looking to build as far as the team goes?
Um, yeah, I've got
Technology, from a technology standpoint. I mean, I know there's like marketing and sales and all that.
right. Um, well, I've got two Laravel developers now, two PHP Laravel, so they're both back end, but I have enough projects there that I need more. Actually, I have three developers working on different projects for that same client, just because we needed to pick up the pace on that one. And then um, and then I've got a front end developer who's taking my Figma design. So I've kind of shifted my workflow, where in the past I've done a lot of my design directly um, in the web in the website itself via like plugins that sit on top of WordPress, page builder plugins. But for this type of website, you know, I want there to be less dependencies, less things that can go out of date and break, and, you know, become like develop issues interacting with each other. So so I've designed this in Figma first. Actually, I started in, well, let me tell you the whole process. Basically, for years, I've used the StoryBrand framework to develop the messaging. And so I will kind of figure out the messaging to build everything on, because story is a universal human language. So if we're communicating through the filter of story, then we can really connect with our audience very well. So I build out what's called a brand script, which is establishing clearly who the character is, who's the person the target audience that we're reaching out to, and what do they want, and then what are the problems that they're facing, what the external problem, internal, and philosophical. So there's those 3 layers of problems, and then even like what's the villain? If you were to personify what's the villain they're facing, and then establish ourselves as the guide. So, for example, this one that I'm working on right now is a NetSuite consulting solutions company. So it's called Ethos Business Solutions, and what they do is they basically take their characters, their target audience, who really wants to have efficient financial management and streamlined, insight-driven processes, but is facing this villain of waste, of waste and complex challenges. And they meet us, Ethos. We're the guide. We understand the complexity of managing modern finance and operations, and we've got a proven track record in implementing NetSuite solutions for over 20 years in the industry. We're experts in transforming business processes. And we've got a simple 4-step plan: consultation, customized solution, implementation and support, and then continuous improvement. And we're going to bridge that gap. We make this agreement with our target audience. We'll bridge the gap between people and technology, turn complex challenges into seamless solutions. So anyway, I won't go through the whole thing, but the next thing is we got to call them to action. A lot of times you go on a website and there's all this great information, but then it's like, what do you actually want me to do? So we got to be clear about how we call them to action. There's 2 layers to that. One is the direct call to action, which is this is the purchase, this is the sale or the closing. And then there's transitional, which is, hey, they may not be ready to take that big next step, but they might be ready to like give you their email address so that they can download a case study or a white paper or, you know, an ebook or something. And then we want to paint a picture of success and how that and how we're helping them avoid failure. And then all of that we get to show the character transformation, who they started as to who they're becoming. And so in this case, they started out as overwhelmed and constrained by outdated systems, and they're moving to being empowered and agile with integrated, efficient processes, right? So that's StoryBrand. So for years I've started there, right? But most of the time my design process has been really integrated, where I'm using Beaver Builder, Elementor, or Divi, which are great tools on top of WordPress. The only issue is that between those, first of all, you got to pay an annual license fee for each of the whichever ones you're using, and you kind of think that you don't have to pay it until, you know, some plugin update or some WordPress update comes along that ends up breaking the plugin, and you've got to go back and renew your license to get it. And so it ends up, you know, being a fee you're stuck to every year. So that can be annoying. And then you just can end up with incompatibilities with things, or maybe a dependency gets abandoned at some point, and then, you know, you're kind of SOL. You have to figure out something else. So depending on the size of the project, I try to gauge whether I'm going to use a page builder plugin or not. In this case, I didn't want to use a page builder plugin. And so I built the StoryBrand brand script, and check this out. I actually used, they had like all of this content that they had written up in a Google Sheet. I took it all and I stuck it in ChatGPT, and I said, take this and run it through the filter of StoryBrand and build me a brand script. And I had ChatGPT build me that brand script. So a lot of what I was reading to you initially came out of ChatGPT. I tweaked some things, and, you know, you still need to supervise, but it saved me hours upon hours just of filtering content. So I did that. And then the second thing I did is I said, now take these and generate 10 prompts for DALL-E, the AI image generator, so that I can get stock photos to put on the website. And it was able to generate stock photos that look pretty close. You look at them for a second, and at first you think they're actually photos, and then you stare for a second, you realize that they're definitely graphics, but they're really sharp looking graphics. And when I showed it to the client, they were blown away. They thought it looked great. so
That's
so
really cool.
I had ChatGPT generate the prompts out of the brand script, and then I ran those through DALL-E and generated those photos. Then I took a screenshot of a template that I put together. So I went and got a template for Figma, and then I started filling in the content from the brand script, and then I sent ChatGPT a screenshot of that, because in GPT-4 you can upload images, and I said, now fill in, like, strategically leverage each of these different sections of this web page, and tell me what, like, using the brand script, tell me what to put in each different section. And it hashed out for me, like, line for line, what to put where, and it was pretty good. I've made some tweaks since then, but it was a really good starting place to kickstart my creativity and get things in place. Um, so I'm doing all of the initial consultation. This is a long way to answer your question, Yannick. So I'm doing all this initial consultation, the laying out of the brand script, designing in Figma, and then I've got a front end developer who's building out the PHP, and he's actually we're using you asked about tech stack, so I'll tell you, it's Roots.io is this company that makes several different products, most of them free. And so the stack is, Trellis is the local development server that some of us are using. I'm actually using Laravel Valet as my local dev server. And then on top of that, we have Bedrock, which is a boilerplate, like, restructuring of WordPress so that it fits modern coding standards and functions within the Laravel framework. And then we're using the Sage boilerplate theme on top of that, and that's what we're building our own custom theme out of the Figma design into that Sage theme. So that's what my developer is doing. And then this other person who I brought on today that I was telling you about is going to handle the integration between that theme and WordPress. So setting up the custom fields so that like, the client will actually be able to change the content of the website themselves rather than it all being inside of the code. So that's pretty much the full stack right there.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, we got a few comments, man. So her digital lemonade says she gave up Elementor and now just use Gutenberg blocks. Like, what do you prefer? Like, out of those builders?
Yeah, I agree. I love Divi a lot, and Beaver Builder. Beaver Builder has been frustrating me because I end up with these cache issues where, like, the style sheets get broken, especially when there's updates to WordPress. So I've been getting annoyed with Beaver Builder, but I do like the simplicity of Beaver Builder. And then deal more complex but very powerful. I like Elementor, but I don't know. I found myself preferring Divi. But I will say that now I try to stick to, if I'm going to use a page builder, I try to stick to Gutenberg, just so that I can stay as close to being stock WordPress as possible. Because again, just reducing the number of dependencies. WordPress we can pretty well count on to be a robust, long-standing piece of software. You can go to a website called w3techs.com, techs.com, and you can see that you can actually see the technologies that are being used across the web. WordPress has 43.1% of the internet. 43.1% of the internet is on WordPress. So WordPress is not going anywhere. So you can feel pretty stable on there. But when we add other things on top of that, that's when things get a little more complicated. So I'm trying to use Gutenberg, but it honestly it is kind of confusing for clients. When I've had to train clients on it now, I realize it's a little bit harder to train them on Gutenberg than it is to train them on Beaver Builder or even Divi. So, but that's the stack I'm going with. My preference is actually to use advanced custom fields and build out a custom theme, plug in ACF into that theme, because you can do some pretty powerful things with that.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so like in terms of assembling your staff, how did you go about like finding the people that kind of fit the areas that you needed?
I think it's a combination of just reaching out to who I already have. And I mean, I called you the other night because I said I'm short on Laravel developers. I need more, and I know that you're pretty active on LinkedIn. I know you have a strong developer community around you. So I think you brought it up even with somebody who I was already subcontracting with, and he brought somebody else into the mix, and then I just was going through my mental Rolodex. That's an old school term for you. My mental address book, and I was like, well, yeah, I've got this guy who's a really great developer. I don't know if he does Laravel, but I called him up, and he had a little bit of experience with Laravel, and but he's just in general pretty good at figuring things out. So, but then this other person who I'm working with today has zero PHP experience, and it's something where I'm going to be training her, but she's just happy for the opportunity, and she gets mentorship and training, and I get a little bit of help on this project. So it depends. Sometimes you work with who's in front of you, and sometimes you find new people to connect with. Networking groups help a lot, though, as well.
Elpix, how can I consult with no training skills, wisdom, or patience?
Yeah, not sure I totally understand the question, but um, yeah, what do you think? What can you clarify the question a little bit, Kevin? How you interpret that?
So I guess the question is like, if you don't have any skills that you can really identify that stands out about yourself right now, like how can you still like start a consulting business? So I would say like before you can start one, you have to take the time to develop and identify that critical skill so you can build around it. Like you don't necessarily have to be a super expert, but you have to be good enough to provide some kind of service that somebody, it adds value to their life and they'd be willing to pay for it. So I would say like don't worry about starting a consulting business until you find like that service that you can sell in some form or fashion. Like when we were at that networking event, we met that guy Ali. He's 23 years old, and he started a cleaning business. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you love or that you're a master at, because I don't think cleaning is his love, but he just identified a service that he could provide value to people, and they were willing to pay for.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, I think I had a mentor tell me, you don't have to be the industry leading expert on something. You just have to know a little bit more about it than everybody else in the room. So depending on the room I'm at, that may or may not be very difficult. And sometimes it's been harder than others. Sometimes it's meant I need to know a lot more, and sometimes it's meant I need to know, or I know just enough as it is. So um, I think as far as consulting goes, I guess it depends on, yeah, you like you're saying, you've got to have some fundamental skills in that area to be able to consult, but um, also don't discount what you know, because that's what I do a lot. I discount what I know. I might think, oh, they don't really need this, and not see the value in it when really people are actually hungry for that as soon as you make it available.
But also like leverage what you do know, right? Like leverage what your strengths are, the thing that you're an expert in. John, you're really good at bringing teams together and facilitating teams to um, get work done, and that's one of your strengths. So I say also lean into what your strengths are. You know, a lot of times it requires a team than an individual to get something started. So kind of like what you're doing right now, you can only take it so far by yourself.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I mean, imposter syndrome is just a real issue we all deal with, but that's something that I still feel very weak at. It's something that I had to, like, out of necessity. I'm trying to figure out how to do it well, and I'm still hungry to do it well, so I continue. But it is cool to look back and think about how far how far we've come versus where we were a couple years ago. So
Yeah, did any of y'all in the audience have any other questions? If not, yeah, we can kind of move into another subject. So like once you kind of build your team, how do you go about like getting clients? I think that's the major problem that most like new consulting businesses have.
yeah, the first thing is tapping into your like you probably already have tapped into your first degree network, or maybe you haven't. So start by tapping into your first degree network, and that means you know pull out your, if you have to, this is excruciating for me when I have to do it because I have like 4,000 contacts on my phone. But if you have to, pull out your contacts and just start scrolling through them and look at, who can I reach out to now that is just somebody that I know is an advocate for me. In particular, who are the people that I have who are well connected, that I have some influence with, that I can reach out to and say, hey, I'm going out on into my business, doing this on the side or doing it full time, and just let them know and say, here's my, oops, let me know if you have anybody that might be interested in that. So start there, and then um, your second, third degree networks you'll really connect with through social media in particular, because then you can start getting posts going that friends of friends are seeing. So tap into that network first, but don't spend all of your time there. So I'm trying to split my time between networking, these networking groups. I'm doing at least until I find the one I'm going to stick to, and then um, I'm also, trying to work on content, like doing this podcast with y'all, doing another podcast, and other things. I'm trying to work on, and this is like hard for me for some reason, but trying to get back to writing more consistently, just things that pop into my head, as well as like using ChatGPT as like a writing buddy to bounce things off of, to like help me, spark creativity. And then, so random things throughout the day, but also trying to schedule time into my day for writing, and trying to start up posting those things on Threads, or X, or any of those platforms. I think for me, Threads might be the platform, but I also want to get into, there's some open source ones out there, but and then obviously TikTok is a powerful platform. Um, it's kind of crazy how things can go viral on TikTok. So getting content out there, but Donald Miller has a great framework for Business Made Simple, this airplane framework that basically, the part I want to highlight about it, he goes into all the different parts of the airplane, but there's two engines, and there's, of course, there's single engine airplanes, so you can get by on one engine, but you get the most power when you've got both, and those two engines are sales and marketing. So I see sales as being, going to these networking groups, as reaching out to my personal network, as that's outbound sales. And then what Yannick is doing right now, these RFPs, is another form of outbound sales where we're trying to find warm leads. We also could be looking for just any kind of prospects. And so we're doing our best to work with warm leads first. Like, for instance, my cousin has a business doing, like, during the holidays, he's doing Christmas lights, and then other times he's doing painting and a couple of other things, but a lot of like exterior housework basically. And he is signed up on Angie's List, where basically he pays a subscription and they send him a certain number of leads, and it pays for itself so easily. Like, it may sound expensive at first, but then, as soon as you get that first lead that turns into a customer, it pays for itself. And so he was encouraging me to find those warm leads instead of focusing on just outbound prospecting. So, but if we have a hard time finding places where we can purchase warm leads for web design, I'm also willing to use a tool like Apollo.io. I already got that set up, or Uplead. And Uplead actually has the ability to select people who have basically shown buyer's intent. So in that way, it is warm leads. And then cold email and cold call. But it ends up being a warm call if you cold email first. If you send an email and you personalize it, you find the person on LinkedIn, and you say, I thought it was so cool that you love taking your dog on hikes. I'm from Colorado, and I'm love the mountains, and um, so you find something personally to connect on that first sentence, and then you get to the point and you say, I'm a web designer, and I noticed that your website looks like it hasn't been updated in a few years, and I thought you might be interested in some website services, and here's what sets me apart. And you be brief with that part. You don't need much time to establish authority to set yourself up as the guide. You do that briefly, but you mainly focus on your customer's problem, because you want to you want them to feel known. You want them to feel like, oh my gosh, this person is talking exactly about the problem I'm facing, right? Because our brains are always searching for who can solve the problems I'm facing. We're constantly doing that subconsciously, because that's our survival nature. So anyway, you do that, and so that's several different layers, right? So we talked about marketing, a little bit, marketing on social media, There's obviously other ways to market. My friend, he's marketing on my cousin, he's marketing on Angie's List. So we find that, Google Ads will, if you set up your Google Business Suite. So like I have johnhazel.com set up as Google Business. I get 500 free dollars of Google AdWords. Now I'm trying to use that strategically. So I want to get a little bit of SEO help from a subcontractor before I spend that full 500. But I went ahead and got the campaign set up last night so that it's mostly set up, and then I'm going to get it reviewed by an SEO specialist and try and boost my website. But I spent $2.42 since last night on Google Ads, which I didn't spend anything. They gave me 500 free dollars, and I've already gotten 811 impressions and 5 clicks, 5 actions. So that's pretty exciting already. I'm going to actually pause it. It's like I said, I want to refine things before I spend through that $500. But anyway, so Google Ads, Facebook ads are the marketing leg, and then with the sales, you can do RFP Mart, you can do Uplead, Apollo.io, and it's also good to have a solid. You start with your phone contacts. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's good to have a strong CRM. So I'm a big fan of HubSpot, just where you're tracking everything, and it can help you keep reminders on who to follow up with when, and it can track all your emails that you're sending. So HubSpot is automatically adding prospects in based on the people that I email. So lots of cool tools out there.
Like how often do like those Google ads? How often do those like convert into like paying customers, or just like potential clients you can get on the phone?
Well, for me personally, I just started it, but with sales, you definitely and marketing, it's a numbers game. So, and it's not strictly a numbers game. You have to have clarity. If you don't, if you're not being very clear about the problem you solve, then you lose people because we're in the information age, we're in information overload. So people need to see very quickly that you're somebody that they want to work with. So you got to have really clear messaging. So I spent, an hour crafting the keywords and the subtitles, the descriptions to use on that little, like, 20 word Google ad. And I'm not even done with it. I'm not even content with it until I have somebody else review it. And come to think of it, I should push that through ChatGPT. I should push my own brand script and the keywords I chose and see what ChatGPT says. But you want to be very clear. But then second, it's a numbers game. You're looking at maybe a 10%. Well, let's see. We can look at this literally. So there's 811 impressions. That means that it showed up in front of 811 different faces. We don't know whether they consciously saw it, but they at least subconsciously saw it. So we're increasing awareness. Of that 811, we got 5 clicks. So 5 divided by 811, that's 0.616%. So we're talking about a fraction of a percent of the people that it shows up for that will actually click on it. So let's just round that up to 1%, which I think is pretty realistic. So if you're getting 1% of those people that actually click, and then you have to figure you're going to have maybe 10% at most, if not 5% of people who follow through and do something with that click. So you want to make the most of that. If you have a transitional call to action, so like that, this is why I'm pausing the ad for now, because I don't have a transitional call to action on my website. So I need to have, it's also called a lead generator, where a pop-up pops up and says, download my free ebook on how to put together a website that will capture people's eyes. And, they have to put in their email address. Well, then I'm pulling their email address into HubSpot and I'm dropping them in a drip campaign that emails them, once right now, and then again 3 days from now, and then again 7 days from now, or whatever, to be frequent enough so that they get familiar with my name, but not so frequent that I'm annoying the crap out of them. So then from there, then I can, once I've nurtured that relationship, then I can hope to get an additional percentage of those people that are actually hitting that call to action, that primary call to action. But anyway, so we get 1% that are taking an action to even show any form of interest whatsoever. And then of that 1%, we get maybe 10% that will take a transitional call to action and 5% that will take an actual call to action. So you're going to see an ROI not on $2.42 of what I've spent so far, but maybe if I spend $100, then of that I get $1 worth that are clicks, and then of that, a portion. So it can take a lot, but that's why you want to optimize and make the most of it by making sure you've got a strong messaging, strong transitional call to action.
Got it. But yeah, did y'all have any other topics? I know it's getting kind of late. Yana, did you have anything else?
I had no other questions. John kind of answered all my questions early on, but there was some good stuff. We'll definitely continue this conversation off.
I will say, to answer El Picasso's question a little bit more, by the way, I only just recently started learning Figma, and like the other night, I pulled like mostly all-nighter, which is usually what I have to do when I need to really get momentum on a project. And during that time, I had already picked out a layout in Figma, but I spent about 2 hours going through Figma tutorials and just learning how to use Figma. And so ChatGPT saved me that night, because I spent that 2 hours, and because I'm very curious, that was really fun for me, and it kind of kick-started me into a position where I was able to be successful with the rest of the evening, or morning. But I started there with just learning Figma, and then I started playing around with having ChatGPT convert my content into StoryBrand and into imagery, and then moving that stuff into Figma. So build your skill sets. There's so many free courses. Like I just went through Figma's like basics course that they offer on YouTube via their website, just YouTube videos embedded on their website. I went through that and I feel pretty confident navigating around Figma. So build your skill sets. There's so many resources out there.
Absolutely. Did you have any closing thoughts, John?
Well, we covered a lot of different things. So I'll say one is, there's a great book called Who, Not How. And basically find your who's, figure out who the people are. So the other night I spent some time and just wrote people on my whiteboard that I want to work with. And even though I can't afford to pay a bunch of people a bunch of money, I can start somewhere. I can say, hey, I don't know what this looks like, but this is my business that I'm doing, and I would really like to have you involved in some capacity. And there's ways that we can help each other out, but we won't know until we talk about it. So start with who, and then go to how. And sometimes the trap that I fall into is trying to figure out how all on my own. But that's why I started making phone calls the other day, because I realized I was siloing myself unnecessarily. So involve other people in figuring out the how. And with ChatGPT, you can verbally process things. Literally, if you do GPT plus, you can have audio calls with basically with GPT, and so that can help you verbally process stuff when you don't have anybody else to talk to about it. So tap into both your introverted and extroverted side. You're a whole human with a lot of power. You want to tap into both of those sides to be successful.
Absolutely. I think this is a good one to end this on. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you, Yannick and John, for coming on. But we'll catch y'all next time.
See y'all later.
All right.